Casanova gave the artist 6 Louis d'Or to paint a portrait of Marie-Louise. She was only 15, but her figure was such that one couldn't take their eyes off her. The painting soon found its way to a courtier who showed it to the king. Louis XV, a great admirer of beautiful women, expressed a desire to meet the model who posed for Boucher. Thus, the shoemaker's daughter became a royal favorite. Marie-Louise agreed to pose for Boucher immediately. Casanova described her as charming, ragged, and dirty in his historical memoirs. The young woman's name was Marie-Louise Murphy, and she was born in Rouen in the year 1737. Her father was of Irish descent. His ancestor had followed the deposed King James II to France in the 17th century. It was said that he worked as a shoemaker, but police records indicated he was a spy, and he even found himself imprisoned in the Bastille for that reason. The girl's mother had been arrested multiple times for prostitution. This unusual couple met in the French capital, but were forced to move to Normandy, as Daniel Murphy was officially banned from living in Paris. Out of 12 children, 5 of the Murphys survived, all of whom were girls: Marguerite, Bridget, Madeleine, Victoria, and Marie-Louise. With money always tight in the family, at least 2 of the girls quickly followed in their mother's footsteps. Bridget was considered the least attractive and most pious, so she was not drawn to the profession. However, the youngest showed promise. In the year 1753, the head of the family passed away. Their mother, with determination, gave her daughters a day to gather their things. She intended to return to Paris, where they could truly thrive. The move happened immediately, and a couple of months later, Marie-Louise caught Casanova's eye. Despite her young age, the girl was no longer naive. The portrait commissioned by the famous seducer only confirmed this. There was no hint of shame. For the 18th century, it was bold and audacious. Naturally, when the king saw the painting, he was thrilled. Marie-Louise became the mistress of Louis XV, earning the title of petite maîtresse. This term referred to favorites who were not suitable for the court, but were housed nearby so that the king could enjoy their company at any moment. For Miss Murphy, an apartment was prepared in Parc aux Cerfs, close to Versailles, where she lived for the next 2 years. In the memoirs of the Marquis d'Argenson, there is a notable fact: La Belle, the king's valet, brought in the new girl, and the seamstress Fleur was tasked with dressing her. Sensual encounters nearly cost the young model her life. After a miscarriage, Marie-Louise fell gravely ill. However, a year later, she gave birth to a daughter. This little girl was immediately baptized and sent away. To jump ahead, she received a good upbringing and lacked for nothing. Meanwhile, the young favorite continued to enjoy the king's favor, and at one point, she felt that Louis XV was entirely under her spell. It was then that Marie-Louise had a wild idea. What if she could oust Madame de Pompadour and take her place at Versailles? Unfortunately, the girl was an inexperienced schemer. Her plot was soon uncovered, leading to her downfall. The king decided to rid himself of Miss Murphy and instructed that a husband be found for her. Thus, Marie-Louise Murphy married Jacques de Baillefranche. He was not wealthy but came from a good family, and he was supposed to provide the retired favorite with what she had always dreamed of: her own home and a noble title. However, the groom's relatives, having heard of her infamous modeling and its consequences, strongly opposed the marriage. A compromise was reached. The bride was given 200,000 livres, and she was recorded in the marriage certificate as Mademoiselle de Boissy, implying that she was an aristocrat in her own right. There were no relatives of the groom or the bride at the wedding, only notaries and random witnesses. Yet sometimes, chance can bring good fortune. The newlyweds lived quite well, and soon they had children: a daughter, Louise, who died at 2, and a son, Louis Charles Antoine. However, Mr. de Baillefranche never saw his son. He perished at the Battle of Rossbach. Marie-Louise married for the second time, this time to François-Nicolas La Normandie, Count de Flageac. Remarkably, this man was related to Madame de Pompadour. Shortly before the Revolution, Marie-Louise became a widow for the second time and soon found herself in prison. Unlike another royal favorite, Dewberry, she managed to survive. After her release, she married once more, this time to a member of the National Assembly who was 28 years younger than she. When the Bourbons returned to power, the king was surprised to learn that the famous woman who had posed for Boucher's revealing painting was still alive, and he granted her a generous pension. But Maria Louise didn't even have time to enjoy this money. She died in December 1814 in 77 years at the age of 77. The portrait that captivated King Louis XV, for which Marie-Louise posed, likely at Casanova's request, exists in two versions. One painting is currently in Cologne, while the other is in Munich.